To Sovengarde is a massive mod list created by the talented Jayserpa, who aims to create the perfect next-gen experience for Skyrim. At this time, it contains over 1,500 mods, all of which are blended together to bring you some of the most immersive gameplay out there. It just recently had one of its largest updates, which released just over a week ago, but since then has had a couple more minor updates containing a whole bunch of new content and general improvements to get stuck into. But before we get into everything new with the latest update, let's go over what makes this mod list so special in the first place. If you take a look at the collection over on Nexus, you might notice that one word shows up a couple of times: immersion. It is the core of this mod list. Start as a nobody, train, study, hunt, and do your best to survive in the world of Skyrim. Witness changes to the world over time as a result of your actions, with complete freedom over the direction of your character. NPCs will react to your race and choices you make throughout your playthrough, making it feel like your decisions have actual consequences. As with any playthrough, it begins with character creation. I named myself using the built-in name generator that even has a working system for Khajiits, and took a look around the strange room I found myself in. This mod list uses alternate perspective, where you can pick out an assortment of armor, weapons, spells, as well as your starting location. Of course, you are free to go with the vanilla intro, but if you end up choosing one of the many alternate starts, Helgen won't be destroyed, and you will need to talk with the innkeeper in order to start the main quest. I decided to piece together a lightweight outfit, grabbed a katana, and chose Bruma as my spawn, as I wasn't expecting it to be one of the available options. And with that, I began my journey in To Sovngarde. Immediately I was greeted with some absolutely beautiful graphics, lost in a land I was unfamiliar with. I had no compass, and my map wasn't exactly providing me with much information. Turns out they're actually unlocked through in-game perks, essentially forcing you to use signs and talk to NPCs to get an idea on where certain locations are. So with that, I was taken back to classic Skyrim and left to explore. It was here that I immediately fell in love with the mod list. It genuinely made Skyrim feel new again. I never actually knew what I'd stumble upon during the beginning of my playthrough. I might see a structure in the distance and have that magical curiosity back from all those years ago, wondering what awaits me. Outside of exploration, there were so many exciting new animations for usually mundane things such as picking ingredients or looting. Alongside this, most, if not all of the movement animations have been changed that both look and feel incredible. I came across a sort of bandit camp where I noticed the level system, with some new UI that showed that the enemies were a little too difficult for me to face at that time. Now obviously you're not all here to just watch me play Skyrim, so let me tell you about some of the other major features included. As I just mentioned, this mod list takes leveling and progression to a whole new level, where you have to be mindful about which enemies you choose to engage with. Some locations might include enemies that are too high level, so it's best to return once you're stronger. The mod author actually recommends taking on basic targets like bandits and animals, and slowly work your way up the ranks, creating a unique twist from your usual playthrough. Just to put this into perspective, it's advised to be around level 15 before attempting Bleak Falls Barrow, which is kinda crazy to think about. Surviving out in the wild is another major part of this mod list, with an improved survival mode that allows for a captivating take on the usual mechanics without disrupting the gameplay to the point where it can feel almost annoying. As always, different temperatures, fatigue, and hunger all have effects that can both benefit or hinder your character. I know some of you might be against this, but don't worry, as it can be turned off from the settings menu, although I do recommend trying it for yourselves, as it pairs very nicely with the rest of the mods. Additionally, the mod list includes the need to be mindful for any severe injuries as well as mental stress. Here you'll actually need to take a couple days off and do something a bit more leisurely, whilst your character recovers, allowing for some great role-playing opportunities. We have a whole range of new items introduced into Skyrim, offering various mechanics. Instruments can now be played, so you can finally live out your bard fantasies. You can perform self-care through soap to get clean, or use scissors to change your hairstyle in a more immersive way. Bandages can now be used to speed up the recovery process of your injuries, at the cost of losing an equipment slot from where it's placed. And finally, lanterns can be equipped onto your character, providing some light without the need of using an available hand holding up a torch or spell. This can be activated simply by pressing the L key. Moving on to some more exciting content, this mod list of course includes an abundance of modded quests, dungeons, and regions for you to explore to your heart's content. Some of these include Beyond Skyrim Bruma, as previously shown, Vigilant, and the Forgotten City. Alongside this, there are many new followers to traverse the world with, complete with thousands of voice lines. An interesting feature in relation to followers is that there's actually a chance that they can die in combat, where you have the option to mourn and even bury your fallen companions, preventing you from using them as a meat shield in difficult encounters. Graphics-wise, this mod list pieces together some of the most beautiful landscapes, foliage, and lighting I have ever seen. It features some of the most downloaded mods out there, all of which are compatible with the built-in patches, even those such as Northern Roads, which is notoriously difficult to get set up. I was surprised with the fact that I didn't run into a single seam or texture issue out on my adventures, but is something that I'm definitely not complaining about. If anything, I think it shows the level of care and detail put into making this collection, especially with the number of mods running consecutively. You might remember I said about unlocking the compass through in-game perks. This is done through a mod called Skills of the Wild. To do this, you need to make use of the campfire spell given to your character, where you can use the perks obtained to unlock these skills as you see fit. In terms of the compass though, you can gather up points simply by travelling and discovering new locations, with an emphasis on actually paying attention to your surroundings at the start of the game. So you may be wondering what exactly comes with the latest update. Well, for starters, I just want to quickly highlight this message from the creator themselves. Version 62 is huge, like a really massive update. It has hundreds of changes, fixes, and new additions. So much so that the changelog is waiting for you with 18 pages. At the time of making this video, V64 has just recently released, so with all of them combined, let's go over everything that's new. Version 62 requires you to make a new save, which just goes to show how much has been adjusted. It adds around 40 plus new mods into the list, with a mix of just about every category. Most notably though, the Civil War got a complete overhaul and is supposedly a lot more complex now, with a chance for you to actually lose the war. There are new weapons, armors, quests, and enemies, including a chance to run into an armored Stormcloak giant, along with a range of quality of life features. Outside of the Civil War, there are a load more patches to ensure everything works in unison, as well as numerous bug fixes for just an overall better experience. Many pre-existing mods have been updated, and some that are being overwritten or are just simply no longer needed have been removed. Installation can be quite a daunting task for some, but don't worry because it's actually pretty simple. Jayserpa has a full guide on how to get everything up and running, both as a video and step-by-step instructions on Nexus. I thought it would be best if I left the installation process to them, in case I gave out some of the wrong information, so please go check out their guide if you get stuck at any point. I'll be leaving a link to it in the description below. But honestly, using Nexus Premium, it just took a couple of clicks along with a few hours of waiting, and everything was set up and ready to go. It works both with and without the Anniversary Edition upgrade, which is a nice bonus too. Of course, due to the sheer number of mods involved, performance may be an issue for some. However, apparently many of those who have tested the mod list have praised how smooth it feels and performs on weaker systems. To give you an idea, on an RTX 2070, Jayserpa was able to get around 144 frames in interiors and 60 in exteriors, with the odd chance for it to dip depending on how demanding the area is. But it does use community shaders, which allows for some extra performance whilst upholding the quality. For those who want to go that extra step, you can install an EMB if you'd like, with the obvious consequence that it might drop your frames a fair bit. Overall, I was very impressed with my time spent using To Sovngarde. It felt like it enhanced every core aspect that Skyrim brings in such a well-crafted way that never strayed too far from the Skyrim we know and love. The only downside, I'd say, is that it has a slight learning curve, especially if you're a little unfamiliar with the modding scene. But once you begin to understand all the new mechanics, it feels great. And finally, the difficulty can be something to get used to. I ended up dying a bit too many times to enemies I'd usually have no problem with, but I know now that makes up part of the experience. The need to explore locations you'd normally skip before you move on to the more serious quests was a refreshing way to play the game. I know my video probably hasn't done the mod list justice at all, so with that being said, I highly recommend giving it a chance for yourselves. Of course, please do check out Jayserpa, who put the list together, and endorse some of your favourite mods featured on Nexus to show them some support. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.